Hello all, my name is Charlotte Cotter and thank you for viewing my presentation on big data. It is important to note that the term big data is still rather hard to pin down. The term is being defined and classified in a variety of ways by industry, academia, and research institutes. It is also a field constantly in flux, which contributes to a lack of standard terminologies. However, there are a number of core elements and connotations that keep cropping up as constituting the concept of big data. Most generally, big data refers to the inability of traditional data architectures to efficiently handle new data sets. Big data has been characterized by the three V's, three characteristics that make it difficult to derive meaning from data. They are volume, variety, and velocity. Volume refers to the size of the data set. Clearly, we're talking about big data sets. Variety refers to the types and sources of data. An important concept to note when discussing variety is the difference between structured and unstructured data. Structured data refers to traditional, often numerical data held in relational databases. Unstructured data does not have a predefined data model, nor is it organized in a predefined manner. Examples include images and videos, tweets, and raw data feeds directly from sensors. Variety refers to the explosion of unstructured data and also the idea that we can incorporate unstructured data into analysis to generate value. Velocity refers to how fast the data is being produced and how fast it must be processed to meet demand. Traditionally, data analytics were concerned with batch data extraction and processing. However, increasingly, organizations have been emphasizing the need and use for real-time streaming, continuous data discovery, and processing. Other V's have also been added to define big data from different contexts. What accounts for the rise of big data? Some examples include the Internet of Things, such as smart refrigerators, RFID tags, and other devices and sensors, social media, of course, artificial intelligence, rapid improvement in high-resolution data acquisition technologies and sensor networks, and also the cloud, which eliminates the need to maintain expensive computing hardware and dedicated space and software. You've definitely seen big data in your daily lives. Big data is the driver for increased personalization on the internet, offering adapted response to the user's current need. For instance, have you ever bought something on the web and then suddenly the entire internet seems to bombard you with images of what you've just bought? Google search personalizes search results using information such as your location, IP address, search history, and result click-through. Big data is such a large concept that there is no one overarching standard-setting body for all of big data. Rather, there are different key players with different interests in standardizing different realms of big data. The well-known W3C, for example, is involved in some efforts related to big data technology. Some concerns of big data are related to security and privacy. Of course, some big data comes from social media or medical records that inherently contain private information. Privacy is also connected to the idea of ownership, who owns this data and who can influence what's done with the data. Services that might be less inclined to protect user privacy might use data for purposes not approved by the user, such as selling of private information to third parties. Even when parties are inclined to protect data, transparency can be a real problem. Accountability is also a big question when it comes to big data. Big data is applicable to the library, archive, and museum settings. As librarians, we want to increase accessibility to big data. Part of that will be increasing accessibility to resources where patrons can learn more about big data and the technologies used to access and make use of it. Part of it will also be holding workshops to teach patrons directly about big data, how it impacts our lives and the technologies out there making use of it. Another part may be providing access to data sources under our curatorship, such as bibliographic metadata and aggregated databases such as WorldCat. Librarians may also find themselves working with patrons who want to make use of big data for research, career, or other purposes. You may be assisting a literature history professor with text mining or natural language processing in the digital humanities, for instance. Librarians will want to better support and advise these patrons in the use, processing, and storage of big data. Finally, institutions such as libraries, archives, and museums may want to use big data to improve their own processes. In terms of the future of this concept, many will be familiar with Moore's law, which is the observation that the density of transistors on an integrated circuit board doubles approximately every 2 years. In a similar and connected way, the growth of technology is expected to be exponential. As our technological architecture shifts to be able to handle big data is already becoming more important to research corporations, governments, institutions. It may even be that big data will be accessible to lay people. We may even possess the tools, architectures, and capabilities to process tremendous amounts of information at our fingertips, same way we have access to tremendous amounts of information through the internet today. If processing large amounts of data becomes the norm, then we as people, and certainly we as library professionals, will want to become experts to a certain degree with big data. Perhaps then it will have become so commonplace that it won't be called big data anymore, but simply data. At that time, there may be new kinds of data cropping up that will require yet another fundamental shift in architecture in the ways that we cannot predict. What is for sure, though, is that data will always be growing and evolving in ways that require us as information professionals to stay informed and to inform our constituencies as to the latest developments. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned something from this presentation.